A girl simply went to the bathroom because she urgently needed to pee, but she never imagined the horrifying scene that would unfold. Just as she finished using the toilet and was about to return to her seat, the plane suddenly experienced severe turbulence. Immediately after, she found herself being tossed around inside the lavatory. Terrified, she cried out loudly for help, but there was no response whatsoever from outside. When she regained consciousness, she realized she was injured. At this point, she heard cries for help coming from outside. She tried to go out and investigate, but found that the door wouldn't open no matter what. Finally, mustering all her strength, she kicked the door open. The moment the door opened, she was utterly stunned. The plane had accidentally landed on a snowy mountain, with the bodies of crash victims scattered all around. Only then did she realize that she had survived a plane crash. She entered the cabin to search for other survivors, only to discover that everyone inside was lifeless. Just as she was sinking into deep despair, she suddenly heard a man's voice coming from a distance. Upon hearing it, the girl quickly ran over to investigate and found that it was a survivor pinned under the wreckage. With her help, the man was successfully rescued. In this cold winter, they had to find a place to spend the night, so they swiftly returned to the cabin and took shelter in the cramped lavatory, as it was the only place that could withstand the blizzard. The two then collected some blankets to cover themselves and huddled together for warmth. But even so, they still felt incredibly cold. The woman promptly placed the man's hands on her body, because staying alive was the only thing that mattered in this situation. But how were they going to survive in this icy, snowy wilderness? Early the next morning, the girl pried open the lavatory door and walked out, only to find that the outside was already blanketed in deep snow. Under these conditions, it would be difficult for rescue teams to spot them. So after gathering supplies, the two began hiking down the mountain, hoping to find residents at the foot of the mountain and get rescued. Before long, they reached the edge of the snowy peak, but this was the only way out, so the two had no choice but to climb down the steep cliff. Suddenly, the girl lost her footing and nearly fell, but at the critical moment, the man grabbed hold of her. They reached a midway point on the mountain and carefully walked along the rock face. Below was a bottomless abyss. If they were to fall, their bodies would be smashed to pieces. But in order to survive, they had to keep moving forward. They eventually arrived at the end of the cliff. At this point, the man had an idea. He tossed his backpack off the cliff, then leaped off himself.